March 7th, 2022. Item 1.1 is the public hearing for zoning bylaw number 709, 2022. I'd like to open the public hearing at this time. And Ms. Thompson, can you please have the corporate officer read the public hearing?
Yes, please. Portal.
So this is a notice of public hearing. It's regarding the zoning amendment bylaw to consider zoning amendment bylaw number 709, 2022. Council will hear the views of the public at the March 7th, 2022 council meeting in order to assist them in deciding whether the proposed amendment bylaw should proceed. The intent of the proposed amendment bylaw is to amend the zoning bylaw number 585 to expand the property lines of Lot 26, Plan 29398, District Lot 3164, and Lot 27, Plan 29398, District Lot 3164, and to change the zoning of the expansion areas from P2 institutional, schools and public use to R2 residential single family. The notice of public hearing was advertised in the local newspaper, Tumbler Ridge Lines, posted on the district's website and the Facebook page. Interested parties were invited to register an opinion regarding the bylaw amendment and had up until noon today, March 7th, to register. I can confirm that no opinions were registered.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Thompson, any correspondence up until this point?
Thank you, we do not have any.
Thank you. Okay, so I will, for the first time, call for comments on this public hearing. For a second time, I'd like to call for comments on the public hearing. And for a third time, I'd like to call for comments on the public hearing. Ms. Thompson, have you received any emails?
I have not.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. And approval of the agenda, please. Recommendation, Councillor Norbury.
That the Monday, March 7th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes. February 22, 2022 regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Majinski.
February 22nd, 2022 regular council meeting minutes be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Any errors or omissions? Staff?
None.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 3.2, February 28th, 2022 budget council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Majinski.
February 28th, 2022 budget council meeting minutes be approved as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Any errors or omissions? Staff?
No.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes, council? Staff?
None.
Thank you. No proclamations, and moving on to delegations. 6.1, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I need to recuse myself as I have a monetary interest in the library.
Thank you. Tumbler Ridge Public Library 2022 budget request. Zachary, Schoenberger, Darra, Hofman, and Paula Coutts to present Tumbler Ridge Public Library 2022 budget request. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in this evening, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Darra is not able to attend tonight. She had an emergency meeting at work. I'd like to introduce Zach Schoenberger, and there are other trustees in the gallery. And go ahead, Zach.
Good evening, Mayor, councillors, and staff. Thank you for inviting and welcoming the Tumbler Ridge Public Library Board of Trustees to speak this evening. This delegation presents the Tumbler Ridge Public Library 2022 budget. We appreciate Council's interest in working with the board to secure adequate funding for the library. The budget delegation includes Paula Coutts, head librarian of TRPL for nearly 12 years. Paula possesses over 40 plus years of experience in library service. Paula is an asset to this library and to the district of Tumbler Ridge. Unfortunately, Dr. Darra Hofman, who helped prepare this presentation, will not be able to attend in person tonight. Dr. Hofman holds a Master of Science and a PhD in Library and Information Studies, in addition to being a Juris Doctorate of Law and a professor at San Jose State University. I'm Zachary Schoenberger. I hold a Master's in Library and Information Studies and a Master's of Arts in Humanities Computing. Dr. Hofman and I represent the two newest trustees on the board, adding to an already committed and engaged group. We hope that Council acknowledges how the library board, like Tumbler Ridge, is in a process of growth and renewal. This evening, our delegation will advocate on behalf of the public library, providing peer-reviewed evidence and video testimonial in support of it, a review of the past year's budget impacts, and support for an increase in funding. A public library is the town watering hole. It's a physical place where all members of the community are welcome to gather, to access resources, to establish connections with other members of the community, to provide growth and learning for their children, and to use services that may otherwise be unavailable or difficult to access in our town. Moreover, the people of Tumbler Ridge should not have to rely solely on corporations like Facebook or Google to enable community interaction. A community needs a physical place where this can happen, and the role of the library has always been to provide this function. In fact, the Tumbler Ridge Public Library was one of the first buildings I visited in this town, and Councillor Norbury was the first Tumbler Ridge resident that I met upon my arrival. That's the kind of community connection the library creates. In fact, I personally invested my own family's future in libraries, and I'm here today saying that it paid me back very high returns. My expertise is in digital information systems and data management. I've worked for the University of Alberta Library, the Alberta Court of Appeals, Edmonton Public School District, and currently for the University of Victoria Library. Librarianship is recognized as a valuable asset by organizations across all sectors and industries. Moreover, librarianship has embraced the technological revolution and is not a victim of it. I know and I want to convey that libraries are a great investment. They are run by intelligent, passionate people like Paula Coutts. Investing in your library sends a message to this town and to the world that Tumbler Ridge cares about families, education, social well-being, and community. Additionally, young families considering a move to larger towns and cities will expect the public library to play a significant and high-profile role in the town. My family loves being here. We love the outdoors. We love this community. We are grateful to be here. In fact, we just bought a home last fall. I want my daughter and the many friends she has growing up here in Tumbler Ridge to benefit from a thriving public library for the rest of their lives. I am volunteering as a trustee so I may contribute my expertise back to the community through the library, as with Dr. Hofman and all the committed members of this library board. We are here to advocate on the library's behalf to ensure it gets funding that it requires to do its job effectively. We promise to ensure the fiscal responsibility of the library and to maximize its benefit to this community to the best of our ability. We also request that Council respect the expertise and commitment of the board when evaluating this budget proposal. The current economic climate is challenging. The library is in more need than ever to get its budget requirements met. Moreover, the community has never been in more need of this library. The library trustees are committed to establishing productive relationships with a very supportive council. Together, the District of Tumbler Ridge and the public library can present an image and a brand to the whole world that says, we value solidarity, we value social unity, and I think with this we will be admired by onlookers everywhere. Because libraries are so integrated into the fabric of our society and our communities, it can be easy to overlook how much they contribute to these communities. As seen from the graph, change the slide please. The direct investment in public libraries is substantial. This graph, which shows the result of a study of Canadian public libraries, shows the return on investment for each dollar invested in public libraries is $3 at the low end and up to $9 in small communities. That's $1 earns $9. That is just direct economic returns, not even accounting for the substantial indirect social, educational, and community building benefits that public libraries deliver to their communities. So how do libraries deliver so much bang for each buck? In short, libraries fill a number of essential community roles. As Edwards et al. Note, this is the next slide. I don't think the last slide. Libraries serve as community builders, community centers for diverse populations, centers for the arts, universities, and champions of youth. Let's talk briefly about these roles and Tumbler Ridge. TRPL supports every aspect of our community, orienting newcomers and tourists to town, providing young families with resources, opportunities to socialize with other families, and support from a variety of professionals, and ensuring that our vibrant senior community remains connected to the broader community of Tumbler Ridge. TRPL provides youth a safe space to be where they can find resources about their passions and supportive adults to serve as both information guides and role models. Research shows public libraries help citizens from birth through their entire lives by connecting the community with professionally curated resources, perhaps more importantly through library programming, which contributes to everything from improved children's education and literacy to expanded business opportunities to healthier aging. These services become even more important when, as now, society is facing headwinds. Next slide, please. Ann Herbert said that libraries will get you through times of no money better than money will get you through times of no libraries. Indeed, during COVID, libraries have proven an essential resource for both citizens and businesses. Here in Tumbler Ridge, our public library was one of the first services to open back up to the community after lockdowns. TRPL delivered and continues to deliver books and resources to people who find themselves quarantined or otherwise homebound. Our job-seeking and business support services help citizens who found themselves out of work or forced to pivot, supporting the entrepreneurial spirit of Tumbler Ridge. We shifted our summer reading club to a remote delivery method, providing a spot of normalcy and connection to Tumbler Ridge children. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, TRPL wasn't able to support our citizens to the extent we would have liked. While libraries are remarkably effective and efficient at delivering value, we are limited by the resources we have. TRPL, Tumbler Ridge's Employer of the Year, cannot absorb any more cuts, or indeed sustain last year's lowered budget level. Without having to lay off staff and end beloved programs such as the Summer Reading Club, which only happened last year through unreliable federal grant funding and the generosity of our town's businesses, which are themselves weathering the storms of pandemic, inflation, and supply chain issues. Indeed, we were forced to defer as much maintenance as possible, forego the purchase of any new DVDs, cut our purchasing of books. As anyone who has a house, a car, or business knows, you can only defer maintenance for so long before you set the stage for a crisis. In the case of our public library, without restoring funding, we risk destroying a fundamental part of the infrastructure, both built and social, of our community. In the coming year, if TRPL qualifies for Canada's Summer Job Grant, funding from this source will be reduced by 2/3. Add the fact that the government has now made 5 paid sick day leaves mandatory for all staff. Pile on top of this sky-high inflation and the many yet to be determined impacts of the war in Ukraine, the library is facing a major funding shortfall in 2022. Therefore, we, the Tumbler Ridge Public Library trustees, request that council fund TRPL at the level of $377,093 this year. The board has carefully reviewed the budget, looking for every possible efficiency. This budget is the minimum to operate the library and its programming at the level that the residents of Tumbler Ridge expect and deserve. It is almost $15,000 less than our 2020 budget after adjusting for inflation. I'm sorry, can you go to the next slide, please? We also request council's support and assistance in seeking funding from PRRD, which our neighbors in Chatwin receive. It is substantial. Finally, it is the understanding of the board that TRPL is a line item in the Tumbler Ridge budget. Part of a 5-year plan that intends to keep the library funded according to the pace of inflation. The fact that Tumbler Ridge has only seen $7,000 increase in funding since 2014 indicates that the current budget is approximately 16% below current rates of inflation. We implore council to address the impacts of inflation that have accumulated over the past decade. Now, we would like to now share the voices of our patrons and neighbors in explaining what the Tumbler Ridge Public Library means to them.
Thank you.
So I'm a very strong supporter of the library. One thing I noticed during the COVID stuff, when the library was shut, I went elsewhere to get my groceries, hardware and stuff, because I actually like looking at the physical books. And once I was out of town, so I bought the books, but I also bought my groceries, my hardware, liquor, pretty well everything, because I was already out of town, including my gas. So with the library being here, with great hours, I stay in town. Thank you.
2 more after that.
They're not moving.
Sorry.
Technology issues.
Yeah. Gotta love it. Was that everything?
I think that's everything.
Okay.
Thank you very much for letting us be here tonight.
Absolutely, thank you. Council, any questions, comments? Councillor Kirkcalkin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for coming in for trustees and your librarian. PRRD funding was mentioned. Have you guys went after the PRRD funding, or are you looking for us to do it for you?
Together, we'd like to do it.
Has the PRRD funding ever been looked at?
We've asked council in the past about PRRD funding. The information that I've been given is that because we don't have a rural tax base, we don't qualify. And it's why Chetwynd gets such a large chunk, because of course they encompass Moberly Lake. However, we do interlibrary loan books. We share a lot of collections, and we have a very good collection that other libraries like to borrow from. And so there are a lot of libraries in this region who benefit from Tumbler Ridge Library's collection. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with other places contributing. Fort St. John also gets money from PRRD, as does Dawson. I'm not sure about Hudson's Hope. Taylor does not.
Sounds like if we work together, we could possibly convince them.
Councillor?
Yeah, so just a direct question. Has the library ever went to the PRRD themselves?
No.
Yeah, I understand the concept, I understand how the PRRD is doing, but when you talk about we're lending them books, or we do the inner book usage and stuff like that, to me that may be something that, whether that's through our mayor that shares in the PRRD, but maybe if they don't want to give us funds, maybe we start charging the PRRD for their libraries to use your stuff, not ours, your guys' stuff.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand why the PRRD only funds certain municipality libraries. It does come down to the rural zoning and electoral areas. But it doesn't mean there isn't a way to, maybe with the mayor sitting in the chair, we can ask those questions. My other question would be is, what are your hours of operations today? I understand with COVID and all that's probably changed a bit.
Right now, we're open every day except Sunday, 10 to 6, and 10 to 6 Monday to Friday, and 11 to 4 on Saturday. And further to PRRD, I vaguely remember that Mayor McPherson may have asked the question or raised the issue at PRRD, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, and the issue with PRD is they actually need to have a function in order to contribute funds. So PRD actually owns the Chetwynd Library. It's not a matter of them just giving Chetwynd money to operate it. They actually own the library. So it's the reason for that is the catchment of rural people around Chetwynd. I noticed in your presentation you had mentioned the Chetwynd Library serves 2,500 people. That's just the community of Chetwynd. That's not the surrounding. That I think in the census information we got last year, there, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Thompson, just around 5,000 that they serve.
Correct.
Thank you. So it certainly would be an uphill battle at the PRRD. Certainly there's no rural residents around us in order to contribute or have any impact on our library. So it would certainly be an uphill battle given that there isn't an actual library function that serves those. The Chetwynd Library has its own function to fund that building. So it would be certainly an uphill battle in that regard. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering how the budget cuts of 2021 impacted your grant applications, or limited your grant applications. How would that work?
It didn't limit the grant applications. What happened is Service Canada, we apply for Canada Summer Jobs every year and hire students to run the Summer Reading Club. However, I had a call about 10 days ago from Service Canada saying that they had changed the rules this year, and they were looking at how organizations, not just libraries, organizations were funded, and organizations that were primarily funded by government, they didn't specify what kind of government, would be considered public institutions rather than not-for-profit organizations. So although we are indeed a Canadian charity, we are also a not-for-profit. We are now, according to the government, considered to be a public institution funded by government. Therefore, instead of being eligible for the full minimum wage hourly rate, plus the employer costs, employer-related costs, so vacation pay, WorkSafe BC, EI, CPP, and so on, we are now only eligible for $7.60, which is half the minimum wage amount, without the MERCs, which means that instead of paying about $1,000 to top up the student salaries for the summer, we would now have to bear the burden. And the other problem, we had already applied for that grant, which is January deadline. Of course, we applied for 30 hours a week because that's normally what we get. I won't be able to afford to hire students for that length of time. So we're actually looking at preparing summer reading club stuff now with existing staff in order to be ready for the summer and to be ready to not have enough students to run the program. We won't hear from Canada Summer Jobs before May.
Any other questions, comments?
I was told to write my MP. That's the only recourse for that. Sorry, Councillor Lehman.
Councillor Kirkowka?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I do have a couple more. Very sad here with the summer job thing. I actually wrote down, maybe send a letter, but question for you. I do follow the library. I do follow you guys quite a bit. I look at your 2021. It doesn't have a spot, and maybe I'm missing it, and maybe you can fill me in, for deliveries. I know you guys are delivering books and arts and crafts and all that. Maybe Zachary, with being a trustee, can answer where I'd find that in the 2021 budget amount. Don't worry about 2022 yet, I'm just looking to see where it was
That would-
budgeted for in 2021.
That would be in programs. That's part of our program delivery.
Okay, so
Counselor,
my other question to that was, does the library own a vehicle?
No.
So
It's done on a volunteer basis.
I'll just leave it at that. Maybe I'll send an email to the trustees to get some more information on regards to that. And, I actually have a question for staff once I hear back in regards to this delivery thing. If especially if we're funding, there could be a pledge there. I'd like to just get clarity and maybe we can work with the trustees on that, or you sit on the library board? We can work through that one. I do have a couple questions on that, so do it tomorrow.
certainly, yep. Any other questions, comments? Got a couple here, just going over the budget. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years of budgeted amounts. Is there any way that we can add onto this spreadsheet actuals? Because there's a lot of, like, in looking at 2021 numbers and then going back to the income statement to confirm the budget numbers for actuals, there's a lot of things here that aren't adding up. Library materials and processing, we've got budgeted for $35,000 for last year and as well as this year. But in the income statement, it shows over $60,000 in library. Do you know the discrepancy there?
Yeah, that hasn't yet been amortized. In addition, we also have money from other grants. For example, we had Pattern Energy made a big donation last year, and we're being written up in their newsletter in the next couple of weeks, recognizing our work for the Summer Reading Club and that book collection, which has book plates in it.
Okay,
All of the statements are unaudited. Anything that you have today has not yet been audited and amortized.
for sure. So as far as the budgeted, or the budget spreadsheet, is there a way to add actuals to that, just for more transparency? Because, you know, you've said in the presentation that because of the budget cuts from last year, you weren't able to purchase more library materials, or that was a hindrance, but yet the income statement shows the expense of almost double the budget amount. So I'm kind of confused, and by adding actuals to these budget spreadsheets, it really gives a much clearer picture of what's actually going on.
Yeah, I can work on that.
The fines and other internal fees are budgeted at $2,500, and the actual amount was $1,283, and we're budgeting again for $2,500 for 2022.
We
Is that-
were unable to collect fines during the period when the book return was closed because the community center was locked.
Right,
So we waived fees during that time when we didn't have access.
right, okay. So you feel 2,500 is still an accurate amount there? Okay. And fundraising and donations, budgeted at 6,500, actual shows about 12,275.
The bulk of that is from Pattern and a couple of big corporations. That was through us doing a huge fundraising drive, applying for a lot of grants, being turned down for a lot of grants. It varies from year to year. I never estimate high for income from grants. We were lucky last year. We got a lot of money from Canada Summer Jobs that I don't anticipate getting this year. So we always err on the side of caution. In the line for Canada Summer Jobs, I only allow for one position. We've gotten 3 the last 2 years. This year we won't get that amount because that amount is actually the equivalent of 2 positions at the new rate.
So the 6,000
That's unlikely.
budgeted is for one position?
One position and unlikely this year, given the changes they've made.
Okay. Okay, that's all I've got, yeah, and if there's a way to add actuals, it'd be much easier to interpret. Councillor Kukauka.
Thank you, Worship. Maybe you have this number as you sit on the chair, but if not, maybe the trustee of the library. The district gave $340,000 in 2021. With all the grants that they applied and were successful on, can you share us the total number for a budget line that you ran?
We spent a total of $393,000 I believe, is the number that's in the income statement that you have in your package.
Do you have the total for 2020? Do you have that total?
Not with me,
Can
no.
you share that to staff?
I can.
If you wouldn't mind, or if that's allowable.
Yeah,
Just wanted, just the total that you had in 2020 and then
Probably
2021, just
Yeah.
to average it out.
yeah, grants is listed here as 38208.
Just saying if it's added, like you said, the actuals, having the actuals there too, then we get to see the whole set, you get to see the whole budget,
Exactly.
right? You get to see that, whether it's the district funded at 340, and then they did a great job by successfully getting grants, whether it's through corporations, the governments, wherever it may be. We get to see that their total budget's this, right? So to me, when the ask is for 377,093, let's just call it 377. And if they're gonna contribute another $50,000 to that, $53,000, if they're successful, and Paul's already mentioned that some of that stuff is not gonna come through. It's nice to know where that number is, for me anyway, especially moving into budget talk.
Yeah,
And that way, if we have 2020s back to staff before budget, we can see what the total spend was in 2020 compared to 2021, and then 2022.
yep, absolutely. Perfect. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the information too. That was excellent. Yeah. All right, moving on to consent agenda. As I find my pen. Recommendation, please. Councillor Kirkowka,
And all items in the March 7th, 2022 consent agenda be moved for information.
seconder. Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any items council would like to lift from the consent agenda? Okay. Moving on to bylaws, 8.1. Just want to confirm, we still have Councillor Howe on Zoom?
He is there, I'm just having trouble getting him up on the screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. 8.1, official community plan bylaw number 707, 2022, report dated January 7th, 2022, from the Director of Corporate Services, requesting first and second reading of official community plan bylaw number 707, 2022. Administration had printed larger scale maps for council to be provided with the agenda. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
The council gives first reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge Official Community Plan Bylaw number 707, 2022.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried, thank you.
Can we just make sure Councilor Al can actually
Yes, just give me.
talk in? Just
Yeah.
so we're not missing something?
Yeah, you bet.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely, yeah. I'm trusting he's there.
I was just texting with him
Okay, you bet. We'll just hold off.
I can see the meeting.
Oh, there we are.
I can see it here, just not your screen, Jen.
too. Okay, thank you.
All right. Councillor Howe, did you have anything to comment on official community plan?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Second recommendation, please. Councillor Kirkowka.
Council gives second reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge official community plan bylaw number 707, 2022.
Seconder, Councillor Kirby. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried, thank you. New business, 9.1, temporary commercial use permit, 123 Ash Crescent. A report from the Director of Corporate Services dated March 7th, 2022 to request council approval of the application for a temporary commercial use permit at 123 Ash Crescent. Recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury.
The council approves temporary use permit number PCUP-2201 for the property legally described as Lot 120, PGP 28289, District Lot 3164, civic address 123 Ash Crescent, and that council directs staff to file notice of the permit with the Land Title Office.
Seconder, Councilor Kirkowka. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Schedule of meetings. Any issues there, council? Councilor Kirkowka, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I don't notice we don't have a budget meeting set for April, at least in the schedule.
Yeah, I was contemplating another one. I think we may need it. I guess maybe we could possibly wait until next discussion of budget to see if we are needing another meeting in April. Council's thoughts? Councilor Kirkowka?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got lots of time to decide if we need another meeting, whether it's done on the 21st after we have the next one, see where we're at. There's also the budget meeting on the 28th, might well decide then, and we're gonna definitely need one, we need it early. I mean, again, I don't wanna be rushed to the final minute, trying to make decisions on the budget just so we can try to make a deadline for the government. I don't think that's fair to our residents, and I don't think it's fair to us or staff.
Absolutely, and I think, by the 28th, we're gonna know what's on our plate as far as what's lagging behind or whatever, so. Yeah, I think we can probably hold off at this point. Any other issues or concerns, questions? Okay. And notice the motions, Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So I have two. I'll read the first one. I'll go slowly. That staff prepare a report for the annual revenue, costs, and membership amounts associated with the Rock Pit Gym over the last 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Your second one?
Thank you. That the DTR, District of Tumbler, halt the expression of interest process for the sale of the Rock Pit Gym and bring back the proposed expression of interest to council for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any other notice of motions this evening? Okay, Councilor's business, Councilor
I
Kirkowka.
had a question about that, maybe back to staff. My understanding is when a motion is put forward and voted on by council, you have that meeting as council. The only one that can bring it back forward for revote would be the mayor, and that has to be done within a month. So we can just get clarity in regards to the charter or not, because to me, when we put motions out, and if that's a way of bringing it back, it's just good knowledge to have. But my understanding by the charter is we can bring it back at the same meeting as a council. The mayor can bring it back to for another vote within a month from that meeting. And after that, it's.
Ms.
Clarity on that.
Ms. Thompson, can you clarify, please?
Yes, thank you. At the time when that was brought forward, it was given direction without motion. When we were discussing and then it was within direction that staff had taken. So we brought back the report on the QR code. That was at the same time. So we didn't actually have that motion, and we're just trying to figure out the date. But usually it's brought back or it should be brought back within 30 days. You can reconsider within 30 days. and we just don't have that date on us right now. We approved it at the last meeting, those minutes were approved.
Okay, Counselor.
It only, it refers what you're trying to do, like, I mean, it's fine, I mean, it's just a notice of motion, there's no discussion on it. Just want to maybe stop to make sure we have the right information when the notice of motion comes up at our next meeting.
Yep.
We ask them the same.
For sure. Thank you. Any councilors' business this evening? Councilor Nobry?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I have two things to talk about. We had another meeting with our South Peace Health Services Society. Not a whole lot to report. We're chugging along. The NDIT grant is looking pretty favorable, so we'll hear by the end of March. We did finish the carriage house, and we're just looking at furnishing it so we can get it rented to Northern Health. I can send out some pictures with that. And the other meeting that I attended this week was a really interesting one with SD 59, so School District 59, excuse me, in regards to the Ministry of Education taking over childcare and what they're doing to address that. So there was a lot of talk, well, there was talk about something called the seamless day, and what that essentially means is right now, usually you'll have private daycares or whatever, where kids will go to in the morning, you know, like the children's center, they'll go to there in the morning, 7 a.m., they'll walk them to school. And then go to school, come back. Well, the school district would like to call it like a seamless day, so it all happens at school. So they get dropped off early in the morning, and they get picked up later in the afternoon, after school, like they stay there for their after school program there. And they've been doing this in a couple of other centers. And they may look at that here. So there's a few of us who dealt with children in the community, and when they heard that we were potentially building a new childcare facility, they're like, well, let's wait and see what happens with your building before we jump in, because there could be potential for looking after kids before and after school. It sounded like there might even be opportunity to create childcare spaces for like the under 5, which is a huge need. Because when they did their survey, they found 86% of people in Tumbler Ridge found that it was not adequate childcare services. And like, we know that. And it's probably hard because their catchment radius was likely dealing with schools, right? As a parent, I didn't get anything, and so yeah, really interesting stuff. So, and I encourage them to reach out to staff, reach out to us, because I mean, we're looking to get creative when it comes to childcare and figure something out. So.
Absolutely, that's an interesting idea. I did have a look at those statistics you sent along there, and I think the survey results was from 50 families with a total of 99 children. I believe out of those 50 families and 99 kids, there was 45 spots needed for permanent childcare. So that's just a little cross-section.
And I tried to impress upon the school district, and like, if you're looking at years out, right? Like the years, my baby was born, there was 40 plus babies, right? Now, the children's center, Miss Raylene mentioned that if they get all they need, they'll have 12 spots. That's good, that's great, but we need more. And so like, I tried to impress upon them, like, yeah, that's great, we're getting our building built, but it's also great if you can still also look at something too, right? Because we're not at a one solution solves the need of our community. Right? So.
Yeah, and that building certainly isn't a done deal yet. It's still grant dependent. Ms. Thompson, are you aware of when that grant is going to be announced?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bertrand. The grant will be announced by the end of March of 2022.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. Through to Councillor Norbury. Did they discuss how the funding of that program would work through the schools, if that's, for the childcare, if it was happening at our high schools or schools?
Councillor?
They didn't say exactly, but I mean, I assume it's the Ministry of Education. That's where it falls under. So they didn't say where or how it's going to come, but there is a ministry dedicated to it now.
Interesting. Councillor Kirkowka?
Thank you, Worship. Just to Councilor Mowbray, talks about sharing pictures. I think that should be fairly soon to staff, so we get that out to residents.
Of the carriage house?
Yeah, I mean, we're contributing funds to taxpayer dollars. I think it'd be great for residents to see so far where you guys got with that. I mean, there was a bit of a delay there. I mean, stuff happens, but, you know, to see that, be able to see that progress already and know the next step is for patient housing. So I think it'd be great to have those pictures to staff so they get it out.
Absolutely. Any other councilors' business? I attended a meeting with the Murray River Cumulative Effects Steering Committee this past week. Interesting meeting for sure. It involves all of our mining companies as well as Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Mines, and basically looking at the new guidelines or the provincial guidelines for selenium limits and looking at creative ways to try and accomplish those goals. So it's important, definitely an important committee to be involved in there. Anything else from council? Question and answer period, Ms. Thompson? Any emails?
I have none.
Okay, any questions from the gallery in regards to tonight's agenda? Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening, by the way. Resolution to close meeting. I'd like to move that the meeting of the District of Tumbler Ridge scheduled for March 7th, 2022 be closed pursuant to the Community Charter Provisions 91 C, E, J, and K. C is labor relations and other employee relations. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of the council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. Seconder, Councillor Kirkowka. All in favor? Opposed? Any opposed on Zoom? Carried. Thank you. 10-minute recess, please. That's an interesting idea.
Try and reach out.